Hello dudes and dudettes, it is I, Trainer Hotto, and today we're going to be going over some theories and speculations regarding the Keyblade transformations within Kingdom Hearts 3. So a good place to start with this theory slash discussion video would be to explain what Keyblade transformations are. For those that don't know, within the trailers and gameplay that we've seen so far of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora has gained the ability to change his Keyblade's form into several different forms depending on the Keyblade itself. For example, the new Toy Story Keyblade, the Infinity Badge Keyblade, we see it transform into a large hammer and then to a rocket drill type weapon. Different Keyblades have different transformations, and each Keyblade seems to have their own unique slash different transformation that we've seen so far. With this information now covered, I have two questions that I want to propose and hopefully answer. Number one, what is the in-universe explanation of how Keyblade transformations are now possible within Kingdom Hearts 3? Because we all know the out-of-universe explanation of how Nomura came up with this is through some sort of drug-induced state. Number two, are there going to be any other members of the 7 Guardians of Light or even possibly the 13 Seekers of Darkness that are going to be able to do this? I'll go over all of my reasonings for all of my theories and possible answers, as well as any plot holes or leap in logic I find while going over these. Alright, now for possible theories of why Keyblade transformations are now accessible. First one being that in order to access the Keyblade transformation, a Keyblade wielder must be relatively around the skill of Master. Since Dream Drop Distance, we learn that both Sora and Riku are roughly at that level, with Riku actually earning the title of Master. This theory does have a few plot holes, however. First being that if this is a requirement to have such an ability, why hasn't Terra, Aqua, Xehanort, or even Ericus ever used it before? I could use the reasoning that Xehanort and Ericus were never pushed to a situation in which it would be a life or death, yes I have to use this. Terra and Aqua could have never been taught the ability, but then neither would have Sora as he left for Olympus as soon as Dream Drop Distance ended, not giving Master Yensid a chance to teach him anything. Perhaps Sora is just a special case and learned the ability naturally, thus giving him an edge in combat, but I find that very unlikely just due to the fact of how dunce of a knucklehead Sora tends to be from time to time. Perhaps Sora gained this ability due to the fact of how close his heart is compared to Kairi's heart. As we know, Princesses of Light have been shown to have some unique abilities, at least specifically Kairi, as we have seen her transform Sora back into a regular person after he was transformed into a Heartless, and that we know her Nobody, Naminé, has the ability to shape and mold memories. This explains why no one but Sora has been shown to have any sort of Keyblade transformation abilities. And I know what you're thinking right now, but Hato, wouldn't that mean that Riku and Lee would be able to use Keyblade transformations? Yes, dear viewer, it is possible that both of them would be capable of it. However, I find it very unlikely that Lee or Axel, whichever one you want to call him, would be able to in the short amount of time he's been training with her. I'm not going to get into the complex training room that they're currently in that's supposedly able to distort time and space around them. We have seen very little of either Riku or Lee during the trailers that have been released thus far, so it's likely that there are powers and abilities that have not been shown. But again, I see Riku as a much more likely candidate for this, since they've grown up together despite how much of a prick Riku was in the first game. However, he did spend the entirety of the first game trying to find and then trying to wake up Kairi before Ansem completely possessed him, and the factor that he was the main reason why she ended up escaping from the Organization 13 hideout in Kingdom Hearts 2. This also opens up the slightest possibility that Aqua and Ben will also be able to use Keyblade transformations. Aqua gave Kairi the ability to wield a Keyblade in the first place, however this never specifies if this creates some sort of link between the two wielders' hearts. While Ben is inside of Sora's heart, which Kairi was also inside of Sora's heart at the same time, and therefore it's possible that Ben could also be wielding parts of the Princess of Light, and it's confusing because of this plot. Now for members of the cast that will maybe be getting Keyblade transformations. This is a more difficult question to answer just due to the unknown nature and origins of the Keyblade transformations itself, so I'm going to be focusing mostly on what would make the most logical plot-driven sense for these people to be getting Keyblade transformations. I feel as though right off the back I can go ahead and dismiss Lee due to the fact that despite him being in that weird room that supposedly warps space and time, I don't think he's going to have enough time and experience in order to truly get get to any sort of level of mastery with a Keyblade that would make him any sort of threat to Xehanort, or get him to anywhere near the level that Sora is in terms of using Keyblade transformations. And even if we are going with the theory that it is Kairi who is responsible for it, they have definitely not been together long enough in order to do that, even with their time in Kingdom Hearts 2. Kairi and Ventus are members of the Guardians of Light, in which I don't really see them having a real chance of getting Keyblade transformations, unless my theory about Kairi's heart being the source of the Keyblade transformations to begin with end up being real, just due to the fact that Kairi has had very little time of training. It really amounts to the same issue as Axel, to where despite Axel even having previous training beforehand in terms of just his weapons, Kairi has had little to none before the events of Kingdom Hearts 3. Ventus is more of a iffy situation due to the fact that we know that Xehanort saw some sort of potential within Ventus in order to take him up as his apprentice, or else Xehanort would have never ended up trying to train Ventus whatsoever. But at the same time, Ventus has been out of commission for about 10 years and basically in a coma, so it's hard to say whether or not Ben will have any sort of power increase compared to where he was at Birth by Sleep to where he'll be in Kingdom Hearts 3. It could be argued that he's been gaining the same experience and knowledge that Sora has been getting throughout all of these battles, but it's hard to say whether or not that will be 100% confirmed until the game actually comes out. Aqua, Mickey, and Riku are all viable Keyblade transformation specialists as far as I'm concerned. All of them have shown marks of mastery far beyond most of the other Keyblade wielders in this series have done thus far. I'm pretty confident that Aqua has not actually been turned into a Seeker of Darkness, unlike what a lot of Reddit posts and forums have said thus far, but I'm pretty sure that she's simply been turned into a Darkling, in which a lot of other more prominent Kingdom Hearts YouTubers have pointed out and kind of explained in further detail. I'll go ahead and leave a link to one of my favorite ones down below. Go ahead and check it out. But those three definitely suitable candidates for the Keyblade transformation. Now time for the bad guys. This is going to be a little bit of a weirder list just due to the fact that one, not every one of the Seeker of Darknesses are Keyblade wielders, and two, most of the ones that are pretty much the same guy with one or two exceptions. Now, huge disclaimer here, not all of the Seekers of Darkness have been revealed yet, and so a lot of this list is going to be subject to change as well. Let's get the obvious one out of the way, Old Man Master Xehanort. Without a doubt, this guy would be able to use Keyblade transformations. Everything we've seen of him, everything that has been shown to us, whether that be in trailers, gameplay, without a doubt, this guy is a badass. There's nothing that can really stop him. He was able to take out 3 other Keyblade wielders with a little assistance from Vanias, but we'll get into him. Xehanort is just powerful enough to not really need to be concerned about much. The only reason he's really using the 13 Seekers of Darkness is so he's able to create that equal and opposite clash of light and darkness. I'm 99% sure he could take on half of the Guardians of Light by himself without any difficulties whatsoever. Young Master Xehanort, on the other hand, is a completely different issue, as we only have one real fight with him, and that's his fight against Riku at the end of Dream Drop Distance. Besides that, he's used mostly as just a taunting mechanism throughout the course of Dream Drop Distance, but to be on the safe side, I'm gonna go ahead and say that young Master Xehanort would be able to access his ability just due to the fact of we know how powerful he's going to become. We don't know exactly when he reaches X power level or anything like that, due to the fact of we don't know anything about his training other than he was trained with Ericus. It's hard to say exactly when he reached what levels, but it's young Master Xehanort. This guy is basically a prodigy when it comes to Keyblade wielding. Vanitas is a really weird character to analyze due to the fact that Vanitas is technically Ventus, but Ventus, according to me, isn't strong enough to use a Keyblade transformation, but Ventus is also a lot weaker than Vanitas, and that's shown when Ventus has to get saved by Mickey while fighting Vanitas because Vanitas was kicking his booty all over the wall. So it's a really weird situation in terms of will Vanitas be able to use a Keyblade transformation even though his other half can't? And I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, due to the fact that in his fights with Aqua, you can genuinely see that she's kind of terrified to go up against this guy. Whether that be because she isn't too well versed with actually fighting enemies with other Keyblades, and it's been mostly friendly sparring for most of her life, or some other unknown issue, but she looks genuinely terrified when trying to go up against Bonitas. And for that reason, I think he's relatively around the master level, and I think he'll be able to barely clutch by with a save of being able to use a Keyblade transformation. Oh, Data Riku, how you confuse me. For the pure fact of everything we've seen so far of you, you're pretty much just a remake of KH1 Riku, and that isn't enough to get you a Keyblade transformation in my book. But at the same time, I don't know if the transference between the real world and the data world is gonna mess with your power scaling at all. For all I know, you could be more powerful than Riku at this point. I find it unlikely, but you could be. But until I'm proven any sort of otherwise, I'm not gonna say you get a Keyblade transformation. I don't think you're strong enough, my dude. I'm sorry. So that's it for all the confirmed Keyblade wielders that are gonna be within the Seekers of Darkness. I will go ahead and go over 2 that are possibly going to be in there, but I make no guarantee that they will be, because it's pretty much all headcanon and speculation on the community's part, and that's going to be Xion and Roxas. So let's go ahead and start with Xion. Xion is basically the creation of KH1 Sora's memories, and KH1 Sora ain't that powerful in terms of the greater Kingdom Hearts power scaling levels. So I'm gonna go ahead and say no. Xion is not gonna have any sort of Keyblade transformations in the event she ever ends up actually making it into the game. Of course, that's all speculation, but in the event she does, she's not getting a Keyblade transformation as far as I see it right now. Unlike Xion, Roxas has been confirmed for Kingdom Hearts 3, so it won't be a question of whether or not he'll be in the game, but a question of whether or not he'll be in the organization and part of the 13 Seekers of Darkness. But that's a question for another video. What we're discussing right now is whether or not he'll have a Keyblade transformation. Personally, I don't think so, for the pure fact of Roxas is famous for his dual-wielding wonderfulness. Now, if you pay attention to a lot of the Keyblade transformations, primarily the Infinity Keyblade and the Smile Gear, the Keyblades for Toy Story and Monsters Inc., you notice that they both require 2 hands to wield in their first form. Now, that would mean that Roxas wouldn't be able to activate both Keyblade transformations at the same time, unless there was some sort of like specific way of overriding them to where they work together. But I find it very unlikely that 2 random Keyblades would work together that well. So for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and say no, Roxas isn't going to be able to do any sort of Keyblade transformations if he wants dual wield at the same time. That's going to be the kind of limitation. Is he going to want to dual wield and do damage that way? Or is he going to want to do a Keyblade transformation and do damage that way? I feel like that's kind of a good balance in terms of how Nomura wants to kind of balance out Roxas as a character. But of course, it's really all speculation, again, at this point, of whether or not Roxas will be able to do any sort of Keyblade transformations or anything of the sort. Alright guys, and that's going to be the end of this theory and speculation video. Go ahead, let me know if you guys think anyone else other than Sora is going to be getting a Keyblade transformation throughout the game. Let me know if you disagree with any of my points, if you agree with all my points, if you just want to chime in and put your own opinion when it comes to the Keyblade transformation and the greater Kingdom Hearts universe. I'd love to hear you down in the comments below. Go ahead, give a like if you really enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you really want to keep up with my content. Follow me on Twitter at TrainerHano, and all the links and whatnot are going to be down in the description down below. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.